So, until the chemical recycling will come alive, we can sort out the sound issues. I hope the connection will be better now because we stay within Europe. And I'm happy to introduce you, last but not least, Thomas and Thomas. That's Thomas Drustrup. He's working for the Danish Plastic Federation. And Thomas Thellesen from Faerch. Faerch is a global packaging company and a pioneer in creating sustainable packaging, especially in PET over the years. In cooperation with the Danish Plastic Federation, they did create a design guide that enables you and us to support the circular idea. So please listen to what they have to say. Thomas and Thomas.
Hello to you all out there, and thank you so much for inviting us to speak at this SPE ETD webinar talk. My name is Thomas Drustrup. I'm the Managing Director of the Danish Plastics Federation, and I'm here with another Thomas.
Thomas Thellesen from Ferc, Senior Director for Sustainability and External Affairs.
And we got the opportunity to speak at this webinar, and when we realized that there was two presentations about the same subject, it was obvious to us that we needed to try to combine the two presentations. So that's what we're doing. So again, thank you for the opportunity. The main focus of the presentation is recycling packaging. I would like to spend just a few minutes presenting the Danish Plastics Federation, so you know a little bit about where I'm coming from. The Danish Plastics Federation is a member organization, around 280 members right now. We are representing pretty much the whole value chain within plastics. So we have tool makers, machine makers, raw material suppliers, the converters, and also the recyclers. Our members are big well-known companies as Lego, Coloplast, Ferc as well, but 70% are small and medium-sized enterprises. We represent roughly 27,000 employees in Denmark, the total plastics industry, and 10% of the Danish manufacturing industry. We're in close cooperation with many organizations, both national but also international. So the work that we're doing are focusing on Denmark, but we are in close cooperation with both European organizations, but also other international organizations.
Well, I'm representing Ferc, packaging converter and an integrated recycler. We primarily focus on PET. And if we look at our total PET mass balance consumption, we will have approximately 70% post-consumer recycled material in our business. We are represented 15, 16 places around Europe, where one of these sites is located in the Netherlands. It's our Forpet, it's our circular recycler PET to PET, so tray-to-tray recycling, where we, at an industrial scale, take, PET food packaging and actually turn it back into food-grade PET material. We are, at the moment, scaling our business, and we're both looking forward to a more circular economy in Europe, both as a packaging converter, but also as a recycler.
And the primary focus for me is the new design guide for packaging that I have the privilege of presenting. But before I do that, I would first look into on what basis did we make the design guide. The background is more or less the debate about plastics. We have seen pictures like this about Danish plastic waste ending up in Malaysia, Indonesia. We have concerned citizens about plastic ending up in nature. So there's a lot of negative focus and negative image around plastic and the plastics industry and the plastic products. So as an association, we both needed to and wanted to work proactively with this agenda and focus on also waste management in Denmark. How do we create the circular economy? How do we reuse more, recycle more of our plastic waste? Stopping to talk about plastic waste, starting to talk about resources and the great resources that the plastic waste is. So it's much better than just ending up in energy recovery, incineration facilities. It's a wonderful material, and there are so many possibilities with it when we, produce it right, design it right, dispose of it correctly, and also sort it and recycle it in the right way. So basically, that's at least some of the backgrounds for making the design guide. Also, we did ask the consumers. How did they perceive the plastic packaging? In the industry, we know that the plastic packaging are preserving the food, we are avoiding food waste, but the consumers are concerned. So we asked them if they would opt out plastic, even if it meant a lower shelf life for the food. And very surprisingly, at least to me, they almost a quarter said to a high degree or to a very high degree that they would avoid plastics. 42% said to some degree, so we are way above 60% in consumers that would like to some degree avoid plastics. So I'm not sure, do you have any experience as a converter on this in the dialogue with your...
I think as a packaging provider, and especially when you're working with plastics, there's always this extra need to datify, to prove, to argue that you're here to do the best thing. I think that we're seeing a tendency with all of our customers and also all of our end consumers around Europe that they need to be informed, and to some degree we need to be better at educating. And I think we need to validate, and we need to prove what we're stating is actually truth. Often when we are looking at LCAs, looking at comparison material and so on, a plastic material will come out better. But we're also here because there is a definite need for good design and also a true need for a system to enable a circular economy. So yeah.
Yeah, and then back to the design guide. The design guide that we are speaking about today is this one. It's the volume 2 of the design guide. The first design guide, we invited the whole value chain as the association. We wanted to create a very broad understanding of the things that we needed to do. We didn't want to go out as the plastics industry and represent a design guide. We wanted to invite the whole value chain so that we had every possibility to look at the barriers throughout the different stakeholders and throughout the whole value chain. So we gathered around not only the producers and converters, but also politicians, the retailers, the municipalities, waste handlers, product designers, and inviting politicians. We made sure that we had different parties from the political system around the table, so that when we presented the end result, the design guide, we made sure that everybody was heard beforehand. The first issue that we had, or the first publication, volume 1 of the design guide, was 12-page publication. But after about a year or something like that, it was very well received within our membership and our companies that were using it, and they were finding out that it was not detailed enough. So we needed to go into more details in the design guide. And then we brought together the working group, as you see at the slide. Ferc was one of the stakeholders and participants in the working group. Again, municipalities, the whole value chain around the table. to make sure that we have a good product. So that ended up with 60 pages, our design guide, volume 2, looking at the circular economy and circular plastic packaging.
So why are we as a company involving ourselves in such a publication? I think the clear answer is that we want a circular economy. I think we're looking at a society where we've for many years talked about a circular economy or the so-called circular economy. And to some degree, I think we should compare it a bit with renewable energy or a renewable system 20, 30 years ago. Back then, everyone talked about it. It was very expensive. Today, it's the cheapest form of energy is to wind turbine up on land. And that's where we want to go. So as Franz Timmermans says, and I think that's a lovely quote, circular economy is the model for the future. And I think that's what we're all aiming for, and especially in the industry that we're in, enabling this sort of circular economy going forward.
Yes. So taking a closer look at the design guide at hand, the vision for this design guide is to strengthen the market for recycling of plastic packaging and to make Denmark a global circular recycling and reuse leader. And to do that, there's some dogmas for the design guide. We want to make sure that we have a high quality in the waste stream, not only focusing on recycling and recycle big volumes, but focusing really on the quality of the recycling so that we have a good product at the end of it. The plastic properties must be retained when we recycle it. The design guide as well should also be open, is made to open opportunities for innovation. It must not be restrictive. It's a dialogue guide as well, where as a producer or product designer, you can sit down with your customer and try to figure out which way do we go if we really want to make a circular product. So it's a good opportunity to share new ideas and to have innovation. The users of the design guide should have the possibility to make an informed choice. We really need the function of the packaging. It needs to protect the food or whatever it's meant to have as function. So that's the primary thing. But in designing it, how do we make sure it's as circular as possible? Design alone cannot do it. The sorting must also be taken into account. We need to try to have a system that focuses on dividing food and non-food, even divide into color if we need that. But again, we need to start it. Right now we are at a different stage, but that's pretty much the visions for the design guide. The first step in the design guide, when you're going through it, is that you have to make the choice about the business model. And we all know the four headlines here: refuse, reuse, recycle, and reduce. As the plastics industry, we are also advocating that you don't have to use plastic just because it's plastic. You only use plastic where it makes sense. So if there's another material that is better, use another material. But use plastic if it makes good sense and if it's the best choice. At this particular presentation, I will focus on the recycling part and the mechanical recycling. We know there's many types of recycling, and a lot of innovation is going on right now. But for the moment, it's the mechanical recycling that we are focusing on. When you have chosen your business model, you need to find out what kind of material do you want to use. And in the design guide, we are primarily focusing on 3 types of plastic material: PP, PE, and PET. And the reason for that is that we got data out of the municipalities of Denmark. And At the slide, that it is the municipality of Copenhagen, which is pretty much representative of the Danish society. And looking at the household waste stream, we found that more than 90% of the plastic waste are in the three fractions, PP, PE, and PET. Pretty much 1/3 of each, so big equally used materials. And we know that if we want to have a feasible business model within the recycling, we need to look at volumes as well. So looking at the main materials in the Danish household waste, we are looking at PP, PE, and PET. Also, another finding, looking at the data out of the municipality, is that more than 50%, 52 to be exact here, are food packaging. So there's a very big part of the total household waste that is food packaging. The goal of it all is to go for a circular recycling principle. We really need to or want to try to create a product that when you design it, you make sure that after end of use, it's a product that is thought through both in the sorting and in the recycling, so that we can have a high quality in the material, but also we want no loss of functionality of the product. So we don't want to downgrade it. We want to make sure that if you have a high quality product, and we know that the food grade plastics are the highest quality, so we want to make sure that food contact material, food waste, becomes into new food packaging, for example. And also, if it's non-food, we want the shampoo bottle, for example, to become a new shampoo bottle. But we want it to be a circular principle that we are looking into.
I think that's the overall game for us as a trade-to-trade recycler, to continue to promote, continue to work for, and continue to actually deliver on the circular economy from PET food packaging back into PET food packaging.
Yeah. And also we know that the different kinds of plastic material doesn't have the same qualities or the same properties when we're looking at recycling. So what we did was that we introduced the spiral recycling principle, so that we break down the big circle into smaller circle. So if we start out by looking at food or non-food products, we can have a circular recycling within it. But as the recycling goes on and we lose properties of it and the material is downgraded, we can use it at a lower quality to another kind of products, but extend the lifespan, and then have a circular recycling within that product group, and so forth, going down to at the end where we have waste that we need to energy recover or chemical recycle, for that matter. So not all can be circular, but if it can't be circular, at least we can look at it from a spiral point of view. The design considerations for recyclability. As I mentioned before, PP, PE, and PET are the main plastic materials, but in the design guide we also focus on flexibles. And when you have considered what kind of material do you want to use, there are different facts and considerations that you need to discuss with your customer or take into consideration when you're designing your product. Is it the right material? What kind of color do we want the product to have? Many are speaking about clear as being the most attractive because we can use it in everything afterwards. But there's many uses of the plastic material, both the clear and also the colored. But choosing what kind of color your product has, there are certain limitations or consequences of that choice. Also, the closure, the coverings, the lids. We want to, if it should be as recyclable as possible, you go for a mono material, one kind of material only. But it could be necessary to use more materials. So do you design it so you can take it apart easily after the use? So the closing and coverings, the lids, the top films, etc. What kind of solution do you go for there? Do you need print directly on the product, or do you use labels? If you do, and if it's necessary, it makes some sort of limitation within the recyclability. As you can see at the slide, there is a table with 3 columns, a green, a yellow, and a red one. It doesn't mean that the product or the packaging is good or bad. It simply tells you how good it is in a circular recycling context. Again, I think I said it in the beginning, the most important thing is that the product meets the requirements, that if it's set out to protect the food, it should protect the food. If you're wrapping coffee beans and you need to take care of aroma and other things, well, it should do that. And that is the most important thing. And then when that criteria is met, you make it as recyclable as possible. There's schemes or tables for every material choice within the design guide. And I think the last slide that I have here is about quality and the costs that are closely linked. And that's just to say that we all know that there's cost associated with each link in the handling and the recycling. So good design doesn't do it alone. We really need to make sure that the whole value chain is working at the same direction, so that we know that if we design the right product and the consumer knows how to dispose of it, we sort it, collect it, we sort it, and we recycle it in the best possible manner to make sure that we have as few steps as possible within it and we don't contaminate our material during this process. So focus again on high quality, high output of the recycling is the main focus. But that is in overview pretty much what's in the design guide when you are having the dialogue about designing a new product. There's many cases in here, also business models, closed loops, other good stuff in here. So I think we ended up with a very good product that we certainly have had a lot of positive feedback from our members, but also from the political system. Recommendations from the design guide ended up many places. And again, I think one of the reasons is that it's not the plastics industry in Denmark that is, making it alone. We are making it with the whole value chain, with our customers, with the politicians, with the NGOs, which means, at least seen from my point of view, that has a lot bigger impact than if we were making it just by ourselves.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, the JRC, the Joint Research Center, shortlisted the design guide. And I think that's much more due to the overall principle and the dogmas and sort of the way of thinking, and less about green, yellow, red. We've seen that before, but there are so many sort of the essence and the values within the guide are there. So if you read it, you should actually come to a place where you don't need red, yellow, green, but you're actually a place where you sort of say, am I polluting other streams? Am I making something that's easily recyclable? Am I willing to take the same material back into my production again? These sort of principles, which are of essence. And I think that's a very good bridge to sort of where we're coming from. I wouldn't say that it's easier working with food packaging, but I think it makes it clearer for us. Today, as stated before, we're both a packaging producer, but also an integrated recycler. And we're an integrated recycler due to PET. And when we're talking circular economy today, the PET enables us to do application to application or tray to tray recycling. And that's sort of the truest form of circular economy for us. So when you enable products that can contain up to 100% recycled content, and it's very important here that we underline that it's post-consumer recycled content, and these products are can enter a system or a stream where they can be circular recycled back into new food packaging again. I think that's where we are sort of setting the target, and that's what we are aiming for delivering. So why is PET different from the other plastics? Well, to start out with, as you also underlined, that there might be a need for at some point to sort non-food or food into different streams. And if you look at the table, it becomes fairly clear that many of the other plastic types are used in all sorts of different applications. And it just makes it a lot harder when you have a mix and when you have a contamination level or a potential misuse level that is different from the PET scenario to actually put it back into food grade material. Hence, you go into a spiral recycling. So if you've chosen a monomaterial PET and set it into a system where it works, I think that's where we truly see what we are aiming for and what the aim should be, because that will be the enabler for a circular economy. And that's why material choice is of the essence. I'll put on a video now.
Material matters. To create circularity, choosing the right material is very important. For rigid food packaging, the choice is easy. PET is the superior material. It is commonly used in bottles, and it is becoming the standard for trays, allowing true circularity, and complies with the strictest regulation on food safety. Ferc. Packaging that cares.
All right, so that's our thoughts about material choice, because it will always start with good design and then material choice. Those will be the enablers. Those initial parameters will be the defining factor if the system works, if the circular economy can actually be enabled. If we look at other key levers today, I think we've over the years seen that the industry might not be moving fast enough itself. So what we're seeing now, sort of in smaller or huge activities in some of the markets, are these extended producer responsibility taxes that are coming. So at the start of the year, we saw France putting a bonus into the fee system on household plastic waste or PET coming from the stream. And why are they doing this? Well, they're of course doing it because they want to develop, they want to stimulate the circular industry. And they want to enable, food packaging to actually be circular, to come back as food packaging again and again, because that's where we'll see a true impact. What are we also seeing? Well, we're seeing that in 2022 you will see a different system, but also a tax system in the UK. And potentially to year we will see an implementation both in Italy and Spain. We're yet to see if that will happen or not, but at least we're seeing this transition. We also know that in the end of 2024, all countries to some degree will have to have a plan or have something implemented due to the extended producer responsibility. And one of the key enablers will probably be a tax or a fee or a bonus for products or materials that will enable true circularity. Another key enabler or another key lever is the industry. And if we look back at 2019, in the blue columns, you're seeing an industry that were on its sort of way of incorporating recycled material and recycled content into their products, but you're also seeing extremely ambitious targets. And these ambitious targets, those will be the true stimulant for a circular economy. Most of these companies, or most of the sort of the very large entities, have either written PET in or mentioned it sort of between the lines. And that's because today, as you all know, PET is the only sort of plastic material within mechanical recycling that's capable of being incorporated back into food packaging. So we have the public, or should we say, sort of the political sector, and then we also have the private. So what are we doing today? Well, in 2018, we acquired Faerch in the Netherlands. So circular recycling trade-to-trade business. We've worked, we've innovated, we've invested quite a lot of time and money into Faerch. And today we can truly say that we have a blueprint. So the plan for Ferc as a packaging business has now become a plan for packaging and recycling business. We're here to expand, and we're here to make trade-to-trade recycling not only something that we have in the Netherlands, but something that we'll have across Europe over time. At the end of the year, I think we will circular recycling something that's equivalent to 100 million trays such as these, made from 100% recycled content, household trade-to-trade post-consumer PET. So what do we do at Faerch? Well, please watch the video.
Here we see the input material as we receive it, and there you can see the future of recycling, which is processing PET trays.
Faerch is a unique site in Europe, or globally actually, because it's the only factory that is able to take in used food trays and to recycle them into a raw material that we can use to produce new food trays out of.
When we have entered the bales, then they are opened, they are pre-washed, and the lids and the labels, the lighter fractions, are separated in this machine. And afterwards we have separated the tray material that we want to process, that finally becomes our end material, like granulates or flakes. Trays are scanned through infrared, so we can assess what material we can use and what material is other than PET, and that is thrown out of the machine and recycled by others.
We know how great an impact it has on the environment and on the climate and on the energy consumption. And that benefit is for all of us, and that is something that is unique for us to do.
The final step in the process, the clean flakes, they are extruded and we make granulate or pellets from it again, which is this material, and that's basically the material the whole process started with, so we have close to look.
So that was Faerch in a nutshell.
Yeah, and actually it's a great example of you as a company going full circle, trying to create your own feedstock by expanding into Holland with your own facilities. Many companies don't have that opportunity, but when we look upon the design guide, it's one of the things that was debated also, that we are creating design guides and guidelines in Denmark on how to make the perfect plastic packaging and make it circular. But we know that goods are going over borders, so we need a system that is that can comply with every nation within Europe. As a Plastics Federation, we're deeply involved with the European Plastic Pact, trying to create guidelines for making waste streams going across borders, because when we know that we are, as a nation, are exporting, with at least within the plastics industry, around 70% of our products. So they should also meet the requirements in the waste handling and the sorting outside. So, but you found a way to make your own feedstock or create a closed loop within your company?
Yeah, I think we're both doing closed loops that you're talking about with companies where we truly like deliver food and actually take or we don't deliver food, we deliver packaging and then get the packaging back again as a truly closed loop. But that's also a mitigation for a system that might not be working everywhere. I think from a design perspective, when we're talking PET, I think the most important thing is that you're looking into monomaterials. And that will continue to be of essence to us. What we're also seeing is that, as you talked about, quality is of importance. And as a PET recycler, we today follow the KIDV specification, which is a bale specification that is the national sort of quality parameter in the Netherlands. That is the base for us. And that sort of determines what purity level or what contamination and impurities you can have in your bale. I think one of the largest contaminants that we're seeing here is there's a paradox in continuing to promote clear PET as long as we have PET PE into the system. Because PET PE or the PE will continue to make the clear PET hazy or sort of or yellow, create this milkiness into the PET. And that's also why I think it's extremely important, as also mentioned in the design guide, to look at, so what can you do? Well, if you're producing materials in a clear, then make sure that they can come out clear again, or at least accept that they will come out as uncolored or non-color afterwards. I think the sort of the evolved tray, that's a good example of that, because this is sort of the true mirror of the European household stream. And I think it's also quite important to say that we as recyclers see very, very little difference between Southern Europe, Central or Northern Europe. Waste and PET waste or packaging waste is almost similar. So the design requirements in one country where you're thinking about, are you enabling a circular economy, are you enabling a recycling afterwards, are you not, will be the same in almost all countries. So today we are taking an input material of household waste and getting an output material that will fluctuate. So towards summer, you will have lighter, clearer trays, and towards winter, you might have more blue or darker trays, simply due to changes in the packaging over time. What is also extremely important for us and all of our customers and the circular economy in general is that you get what you're paying for. And I think we as an industry need to talk much more about post-consumer recycled content. Because post-consumer recycled content will be the sort of the true impact or the sustainability impact parameter of your plastics packaging. Because this is where you truly see, did I take something from an otherwise sort of a waste stream and put it into a valuable material, or did I not? That will be both for non-food and for food applications over time. This is where we truly look at a resource and take it back again. That's also why we as a company now, and we hope that this will be an industry standard over time, that we are truly pushing to have the entire industry third-party validating their mass balance numbers when they're looking into post-consumer recycled or virgin mass balance into their business. Because it is so important that our customers and our end consumers know that they're getting what they're paying for. So, as an industry, I think we need to take complexity out of the system, try to, when possible, to produce more in monomaterials, try to look into design guides and reach out to organizations or to experts that will help you in designing into a system or designing into a future system so that the circular economy will actually be enabled by the right choice, We're seeing the industry is moving, we're seeing the political system is moving as well. And I think it's extremely important as a packaging industry that we continue to take complexity out of the system and make it easier for everyone so that we will actually have this circular economy over the coming years.
Yeah, and as a final remark from my point of view, is that if you want to have a closer look at the design guide, you can download it from our webpage at the Danish Plastics Association. It's in English as well, so you're not required to learn Danish before doing it. www.plast.dk is where you find it, and just search for the design guide. And thank you so much for listening, and it's been a privilege actually being two together here at Corona times. So it's...
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on. It seems to work. Thomas and Thomas, I can see you. Very impressive presentation. Thank you very much for that. We have prepared some questions for you, and I'd like to start maybe with the questions to the Danish Plastic Federation, Thomas. You got quite a group together, and one of the questions we have working international is, how did you manage to get so much different stakeholders under one roof? And then I can follow up with the next question. How will you do the same thing on a European base?
Well, it wasn't easy, of course. There's a lot of strong individual interests when you gather a group like that. But luckily also a very big and a bigger wish to find a sustainable solution to the whole discussion about how to create a circular plastic packaging. I think the great thing about it is that when you gather a group like that, during the discussions and the dialogue, and as it went on, the barriers, they broke down and everybody got a bigger understanding of each other's positions. So getting to know each other and understanding each other, we reached a common ground and the opportunity to make the design guide that everybody could approve upon. So it's, I think it was everybody's understanding. If we need something that is, secure from the future, and instead of fighting about small details, we need to look at a bigger picture. So it was a good and a great learning experience. And as I mentioned in the presentation, we've had much positive attention, not only from our customers, from our members, but also from the politicians. And right now we are the second question about taking it to the European level. Well, we are working very closely with the Danish Environmental Ministry and also the European Plastic Pact. So we have our environmental manager positioned in the steering committee of the European Plastic Pact, and they're focusing on developing guidelines throughout Europe, focusing on plastic packaging. So it's a little bit not the same process, but a lot of the discussions we've already had once. So of course that's a benefit that's beneficial to us. But again, a very strong overall interest in creating these common guidelines, so that every nation doesn't have their own guidelines.
Okay, thank you. Any idea on the timing? What are we looking at? Couple of years? Couple of decades?
No, everybody's very busy with the work, so I don't have a complete overview of the timing, but it's work that is going on for the next years, and I think it will, and there'll be a lot of progression. We'll get better and better. So I don't have a timeline saying now we have a European common guideline, but we're working on it on a daily basis.
thank you for working on it, and we'll keep the fingers crossed, and if we can, we will help.
Sounds great.
Thomas from Ferc, where would you see that the PET market goes maybe in the next 10 years? And what role do you see for the chemical recycling, like we heard before, to play when it comes to PET recycling?
So the PET market the next 10 years, I think it will be fierce and exciting. I think there will be a lot of demand. I think we all know that in 2025, all the bottle producers will have to include 25% recycled content, and in 2030 they'll have to include 30% recycled content into their bottles. So there will be a sort of a huge consumption from that part of the packaging world. From a trade-to-trade recycling perspective, that hopefully will also create opportunities and more stimulants sort of to enable this application to application or food packaging PET recycling, not only for us but also for competitors or us partnering up with more people around Europe. But I think as long as there's not a sort of this EFSA scientific study for PE or for PP, then PET will be the primary resource or the primary material that can be incorporated back into food packaging again, simply because there's less complexity and because you don't know what the sort of the start contamination level is with the other plastics, and that will just continue to be an issue even with a lot of technical improvements. And if that is not sorted, then I think the PET market will become even bigger and quite fast. But yeah, and chemical recycling in the PET world, that would be monomer recycling. I think chemical recycling in general is could potentially leapfrog sort of the recycling business and create huge improvements in general for all societies around the world. I sometimes wonder if you, from a chemical recycling perspective, will start with the easily recyclable. So, for example, rigid food packaging, which is actually to some degree fairly easy recyclable compared to very contaminant sources, electronic waste with flame retardants and all these sorts of things. So like from a political point of view, if they have any control, would you then choose the easy to recycle material streams, or would you choose something else? But I think from an overall point of view, chemical recycling will be extremely exciting to follow, but it's huge investments and it's truly an infrastructure change that will take quite some time.
Thank you very much. One question, or actually two questions, but they circle around the same thing, is how do we come to a kind of a certificate to enable the consumers or the market to state the material as recyclable and approved for the use in plastic? Not in plastic, in food packaging, of course.
Are you asking me? I think there's a tendency with all the different suppliers and also all the different waste management organizations or EPR systems that we're working with, that either you're looking into the future and your taxes and your fee schemes are developed so that you are trying to stimulate a circular future going forward, or the opposite, and we're seeing that many places, you're looking at how is it today. And if you're looking at how is it today, then you will continue to stimulate or to develop infrastructure with materials that are large today and maybe not recyclable or circular recyclable back into food packaging. Whereas if you're looking sort of for a future system, you might sort of change your fee schemes or your EPR system differently. So how do we go from from A to B. I think there is an overall need, and I think that's coming in the extended producer responsibility and from the Commission in general, where we're seeing that we will have to set targets now, and we actually have to deliver on them. So continue sort of to talk about that tomorrow we will solve or something. At some point, we also simply need to say, what do we have today technology-wise? What can we deliver? And then build systems on that so that we, both on a short term, but also on a long term, deliver on these climate and environmental recyclability targets, which will be, where we truly see CO2 and environmental issues being resolved.
Okay, thank you. But maybe the other, Thomas, then, these were the targets, but I think the question circled a little bit out. Is there certificates today? And if yes, who would give them? What do you consider as 100% recycled or something like this, what we see on many packages?
Well, there's a few debates going on right now on how to define recyclability. When we're talking about chemical recycling, what is perceived as being recycled. Mechanical recycle, is it enough that we recycle products from within the production, or should it be a post-consumer to be defined as recycled? So there's still some definitions to be made. There's a lot of focus from our recycling companies in Denmark on certificates, on being able to prove where has the material come from, is there any contaminations to it, and I think there's a lot of need for perceiving this as our goal is not to recycle as much as possible. And it's often that discussion that we're having. The goal is to have as high as a quality in the recycling as possible. And to get a high quality, you need some sort of, perhaps some sort of certification. And I know that the recycling companies some of them are issuing them right now. If it comes to the producers, that they are issuing a certificate, I'm not quite sure. But there's a need for a transparent way of dealing with the raw material. The focus is from our converting industry also, do we have a sufficient supply or a steady supply stream of raw materials that we can, make products with the recycled materials in it? We have a consumer request saying that they need products that are fit for reuse and recycling, but also starting to request the products with more recycled material in it. And we know that the barriers are sometimes how much contaminated material do we allow before it could be food contact material. So there's discussion about, but I don't have an exact answer on who are delivering the certificates.
Okay, thank you. There seems to be a little work ahead of us, but we got quite some way. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to have you here, and we hopefully see you latest in Geneva. Thank you.
Thank you.